ਹੈਮਿਲਟਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਆਦੀਵਾਸੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਵਿਰੁੱਧ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਹਿੰਸਾ ਦੇ ਦੋਸ਼ਾਂ ਤੇ ਹੈਮਿਲਟਨ ਰੀਜਨਲ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਅਤੇ ਹੈਮਿਲਟਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲੀਗਲ ਕਲੀਨਿਕ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ 155 ਕਿੰਗ ਵਿਲੀਅਮ ਸਟਰੀਟ ਵਿਖੇ ਹੈਮਿਲਟਨ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਡਾਊਨਟਾਊਨ ਸੈਂਟਰਲ ਲੋਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ। ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਂਸਟੇਬਲ ਬ੍ਰਾਇਨ ਵੇਨ ਤੇ ਹਮਲੇ ਦਾ ਦੋਸ਼ ਲਗਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ। ਹੈਮਿਲਟਨ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਚੋਰੀ ਵਾਹਨ ਦੀ ਜਾਂਚ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੱਕੀ ਪੈਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਟੌਮਚੁਕ ਨੂੰ ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰ ਕੀਤਾ।
Allies and friends who've come out to support this important message today. We'll be talking about the ongoing oppression, discrimination and racism that leads to violence that Indigenous and other marginalized people experience. So there is not simply a long history of violence by colonial law enforcement agencies against Indigenous peoples in Canada. Such acts are the foundation of Canadian history. These institutions have been instrumental in the execution of historical atrocities and acts of aggression, such as the Canadian Indigenous residential schools, the 60 Scoop, the Oka crisis, the Ipperwash crisis, live birth alerts, Crown warships, and Starlight tours. They continue to perpetuate or contribute to modern injustices such as the continuing crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Land Back 1492, the Wet'suwet'en demonstrations, instances of police brutality, and the death of Indigenous suspects, and many others. While some efforts are being made to address these past and present harms, no part of Canada is untouched by violence and discrimination against Indigenous peoples. Across this country, Indigenous peoples have vocalized the harm done by law enforcement agencies, but all too often their stories are not taken seriously or dismissed, or it is they who are victimized. As a result, it is important to call attention to these matters as they arise, call them out for what they are, and advocate for change that is already too late in coming. The City of Hamilton and the Hamilton Police Services are not exempt from these occurrences of acts of racism, discrimination, and violence against Indigenous people. Recently, one of our Indigenous relatives experienced a vicious assault by a police officer. On June 16, 2020, the Hamilton Police Services released a statement containing the following information about this incident. On May 26, 2020, Hamilton Police obtained a video from a commercial establishment and a citizen following the arrest of a suspect in a stolen vehicle investigation. The level of force used by one officer during the interaction resulted in a separate criminal investigation. The officer was immediately suspended. As a result of the investigation, Constable Brian Wren has been charged with assault level 1. His first court appearance was July 21st, 2022. Although there has been progress in attempting to develop trusting relationships with law enforcement agencies, society must always hold police accountable when unwarranted acts of violence are inflicted upon members of the Indigenous community or any other community. We must hold both the individual police agent and the institution that employs the police officer accountable for this violence.